The sun had barely climbed over Lagos when Amara Nwosu stood in front of the mansion's tall iron gate, balancing a tray of steaming jollof rice on her head. Her faded yellow apron clung to her damp skin. Inside, laughter and music spilled from the grand wedding, a union between the Adewale and Ease families, both names that carried weight across the city. Amora's catering company wasn't even real. Just her and her cousin, Nena, taking small jobs from local markets and birthdays. But this job was her breakthrough. A single day here could open doors. If they like our food, maybe they'll hire us again, she whispered to herself. Inside, chandeliers glistened over a sea of lace and gold. She moved carefully through the crowd, placing plates with quiet humility. But then, disaster struck. A drunken groomsman stumbled into her tray. The tray flipped, and a splash of oily stew painted the bride's shimmering white gown. A horrified gasp spread like fire through the hall. "Who brought this thing here?" the bride shrieked. Cameras flashed. The crowd parted, and from the VIP table, Tonya Adewale, elegant, cruel-eyed, and famous for her wealth, stood up, her lips curling. "These market girls will never learn class," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Laughter rippled. Even the band paused. Amara bent down, trembling, to pick up the tray, tears stinging her eyes. But the security guard grabbed her arm and shoved her toward the door. Outside, rain began to fall. Her soaked apron clung to her body as guests whispered and pointed. A small boy laughed. "She's the one who stained Auntie's gown." Amara stood frozen by the gate. Her dreams had just shattered in front of hundreds. The humiliation was complete. That night, she walked home barefoot, carrying her ruined tray. In her small one-room apartment, she broke down completely. "Why? God, why me?" she whispered. But as thunder rolled outside, something inside her shifted. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't her end. Maybe it was her beginning. Amora's fiancé, Chaikobi, arrived the next morning, tall, sharp-shooted, with a smirk that no longer held warmth. She thought he had come to comfort her. Instead, his words sliced her heart. "Amara, I can't keep doing this," he said, pacing the small room. "I'm tired of your struggles. You embarrass me. Amara, my friend saw that video. You were trending for the wrong reason." Amara blinked, speechless. "You saw the video." "Everyone did. You were all over TikTok, the girl who poured stew on a bride. I can't have people laughing at me because of you." She swallowed, shaking. "Chaik, I was working. It was an accident. I'm trying." "Trying isn't enough," he said coldly. "I have plans. Amara, I can't build a future with someone who can't even walk properly in public." He removed the engagement ring from her finger and placed it on the table. "I've met someone, Ngozi. She understands class. I wish you well." The door closed. Silence filled the room. Amara stood staring at the ring, her heart breaking, her pride bleeding. She wanted to scream. But instead, she sat down on the floor and wept until dawn. When she finally stopped, her tears had dried into resolve. He had chosen a class. She would build her own. Days later, Amara returned to her mother's small house in Ajigunle. The smell of palm oil stew and old newspapers filled the air. Mama Nkem sat on a low stool, mending a torn wrapper. Her eyes, aged but wise, looked up at her daughter with quiet understanding. "Life beat you, eh?" she said softly. Amara nodded, her throat tight. "Mama, I'm tired. Everything I touch turns to shame." Mama Nkem smiled faintly. "You think shame lasts forever?" "No, my daughter. It's like smoke, it fades if you stand firm." "But Chaik left. They all laughed at me. They called me a market girl." "Then let them laugh," Mama said, placing her hand over Amara's. "Do you know who they laugh at? People they fear will rise. Amara, those who mocked you will one day bow to the work of your hands." Her mother's voice carried a strange certainty, almost prophetic. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Her mother's words echoed through her mind. "Bow to the work of your hands." In the morning, she woke up before sunrise, washed her face, and went back to the streets. Her heart was still bruised, but something new burned beneath it. Hunger. Amara borrowed 30,000 Nigerian nairas from a local cooperative and bought plastic food containers, a second-hand cooler, and a small gas burner. She printed flyers for Amara's kitchen, home taste, office speed. Her first customers were bus drivers and mechanics. She delivered rice and beans under the hot Lagos sun, balancing coolers on her head. People mocked her still. "Ain't that girl we disgrace herself a wedding," someone shouted once. She smiled and kept serving. Days turned to weeks. The orders grew. Soon, she was delivering to office complexes in Ikeja. One afternoon, after hours of hustling, she sat by the roadside counting her profit, 8,400 Nigerian nairas. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Then a stranger approached. "You be Amara?" the man asked. "My boss like your food. He W an order for all staff meeting next week." She blinked. "Your boss? Who's your boss?" He smiled. "Adewale Holdings." Her hands froze. The same name that had haunted her dreams. For days, Amara debated whether to accept. But hunger and courage pushed her forward. She cooked all night, jollof, fried rice, pepper chicken, determined to prove herself. As she stepped into the marble lobby of Adewale Holdings the next morning, her heart pounded. She wore her cleanest apron, her hair neatly tied. The receptionist eyed her tray and sneered. "Deliveries go through the back." Amara nodded quietly, but fate had other plans. As she turned the corner, a familiar voice floated behind her. Laughter, sharp, distinct, unforgettable. "Tonya Adewale." She froze. Tonya walked into the hallway in a bright blue designer suit. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Recognition flashed in Tonya's face, then surprise, then annoyance. "Well, look who we have here," Tonya said, her tone laced with mockery. "Still carrying food?" Amara smiled faintly. "Yes, Ma. Some of us carry food until we can carry empires." Tonya laughed, dismissing her. "You people never change." Amara walked away, her shoulders straight. For the first time, she didn't feel small. She didn't know it yet, but that day marked the beginning of her rise and the slow fall of the very people who once made her kneel. The elevators of Adewale Holdings glided like steel coffins, silent, reflective, unforgiving. Amara stood inside one, tray in hand, watching her own face in the mirror, sweat-damp curls tucked under a hairnet, eyes steady, mouth set in the kind of line you learn from swallowing insults. The door slid open to the 21st floor, and corporate Lagos spilled into view. Glass-walled conference rooms, humming air conditioning, chrome desks, and the faint smell of money. "Delivery?" a young admin asked, chewing gum like it was a statement. "Yes. Boardroom B." Amara balanced the tray and moved, passing framed photos of Mr. Adewale shaking hands with governors and foreign investors. She kept her gaze forward, shoulders square. She had cooked all night for this order. Pepper chicken crisp just enough to hold its bite, smoky jollof with bay leaf and roasted bell pepper, plantain slices glistening like gold coins. She set the food with meticulous care, labels aligned, cutlery placed in perfect bundles. A senior staffer in a charcoal suit stepped in. "Is this Amara's kitchen?" he asked. "Yes, sir." He took a plate, tasted, blinked once, then twice. "Who taught you to do this?" "My mother first," she said. "Experience finished the job." He chuckled. "I'm Femi Daniels. Legal." He held her gaze for a beat longer than courtesy required, as if recognizing grit when he saw it. "Billing details. I'll send invoice a day." A minute later, laughter lilted down the corridor like perfume. Bright, expensive, careless. Tonya Adewale, sapphire suit flashing under white lights, walked with two PR girls trailing like satellites. The corridor narrowed with her presence. She stopped when she saw Amara, a brief flicker of surprise tightening her jaw before the performance returned. "You," she said, a smile made of glass. "You've developed persistence." "Consistency," Amara replied, keeping her tone even. "It feeds people longer." Tonya studied the boardroom spread, nodded as if approving art. "At least you learn presentation. Make sure your invoice shows you understand corporate rates. We don't bargain in this building." "I only bargain with the market," Amara said. Hey, I bill what the food is worth. The PR girls exchanged glances. Tanya's smile thinned. We'll see. As the door swung closed behind them, murmurs drifted from an adjacent room. Two finance analysts, whispering near the copier. Charity line items shifted again. Executive order. Foundation needs a cash for media partnerships. Code for luxury nonsense. Relax. Mrs. A has friends in the commission. Amara didn't tone, but her spine registered every word. Once, humiliation had drowned her. Now, it sharpened her hearing. She finished the setup, collected her tray, and left without haste. In the elevator down, she pressed her free hand against her apron to steady the tremor of adrenaline. She had delivered food, but something else had been delivered to her, a map of fault lines under marble floors. Outside, Lagos throbbed, hawkers weaving between cars, horns insistent as heartbeat. She exhaled into the heat. This tower had once been the scene of her unmaking. Today, it became a site of data, names, patterns, tiny truths. She was learning the building's appetite. Soon, it would learn hers. Orders from Ediwale Holdings kept coming. Leadership meetings, department town halls, investor briefings, each request larger than the last. Amara built systems. Procurement lists with unit cost columns, a delivery rota that mapped traffic patterns and generator outages, strict hygiene protocols. She didn't just cook, she ran logistics. She trained two young women from her street, BC and Kamsi, teaching them that clean nails and steady eyes were part of the recipe. But the more she returned to the tower, the louder the whispers grew. In finance, a junior analyst asked for a receipt to be split into foundation-coded and operations-coded halves. In PR, someone joked that the Adiwale Foundation's school lunch program fed more gala tables than children. The joke hung in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. Amara kept her head down. She wasn't a detective. She was a caterer. Still, the pattern was hard to ignore. Charity money moving into brand activation, influencer grants, venue retainer fees that lined up with Tanya's public calendar. She never pried, but Lagos carried stories away how matin carries dust, into lungs, onto skin, into everything. One Thursday evening, after a late delivery, the power flickered in the building, and emergency lights cast a hallway in soft amber. A door down the corridor stood ajar, conference room 12, and voices drifted like radio static. Amara meant to keep walking, but a name froze her. Tanya. The commission is asking questions, a man said. We need to align the foundation books with the gala spend. A woman, cool, educated, replied, We'll fold the gala into the youth leadership program. Rebrand as mentorship. Mrs. Ediwale already secured the keynote. And the donation pledges. Half are from vendors hoping for contracts. They'll pay once POS are issued. It's circular, but it works. And what about the video? Silence. Then, there's no video. Amara stepped back on instinct, tray pressing into her palms, breath shallow. She hadn't filmed anything, yet, but the certainty in the woman's voice sounded like a dare to reality itself. Tanya's circle treated truth like clay, moldable for hire. In the lobby, Femi caught up with her, loosening his tie. You okay? She nodded. Just long day. He studied her face. Long days teach us which truths matter. What's your job teach you? She asked, surprising herself. That power thinks it's invisible in good lighting, he said. It isn't. On the bus ride home, headlights turned the road into a river of white beads. Amara rested her head against the window. She wasn't the police, but she remembered the wedding night, the thunder, the laughter, the shove through the gates. She remembered Maman Kem's voice. Those who mocked you will bow to the work of your hands. Her hands could cook. Her hands could also hold a phone. 2 weeks later, a PR assistant too drunk to measure word bragged during a post-event cleanup. Mrs. A says a gala is where money learns to behave. Laughter. A phone on the table. Screen unlocked. Messages flooding an event WhatsApp group. Line items. Vendor lists. Foundation offsets. Amara didn't steal. She didn't hack. But she had eyes, ears, and timing. She began to document what the world laid bare in its own carelessness. Photos of public invoices next to private menus, audio of harmless jokes that name crimes, dates matched to transfers, and pledge confirmations. She didn't know what she would do with it. Only that shame had turned her into a witness with receipts. The past was a way of timing itself for maximum sting. Chike appeared on a Monday morning like it belonged to the building. ID card swinging, briefcase gleaming, cologne insisting on a memory. He saw her arranging trays in the 17th floor pantry and stopped, a flicker of disbelief cracking the polish on his face. Amara. She stared at a stack of plates. Good morning. He glanced at the spread. You work here? I serve here, she said, unbothered, and I bill properly. He forced a laugh. I'm with Strategy now. Adiwale Holdings values growth. Looks like you're growing too. She had prepared 100 replies over sleepless nights, but the right one came without effort. Yes, some things disappeared to make room for growth. He swallowed. About that day, what I said. The day you gave me back my ring, she asked, eyes level. It fits you better than me. He winced. I made a mistake. She nodded. We all do. Some of us correct them by working. That should have ended it. But betrayal rarely exits when dismissed. It lingers, looking for openings. 2 days later, Chike approached her in the lobby, voice low. I can help you scale. Corporate catering is cutthroat. If you let me manage your contracts, I'll make sure you get approvals faster. What's your fee? She asked. 10%. For approvals I already get because my food is good. He smiled without humor. It's not about food. It's about networks. I have them. Amara's chest tightened, not with old pain, but with a new clarity. Some men don't come back for love. They come back for leverage. No, thank you, she said. His expression hardened. People who turn down help in this city end up with closed doors. She leaned in, voice still gentle. People who sell their doors forget who owns a house. He muttered something she couldn't hear and walked away. That evening, her next day's order was reduced by half without explanation. A week after, a facilities manager lost her vendor pass for 2 days. She took the blows without folding, rerouted deliveries through stairwells, and sent 24 tasting packs to other floors. New departments called. Orders rebounded. A month later, she received a text. Chico BI added you to a group. Supply synergy. Inside were mid-level managers swapping favors, expedite fees, kickbacks disguised as night logistics. Her name pinged with a soft tag. Potential. Can align if flexible. She typed slowly. I'm flexible with recipes, not with integrity. Remove me. She left the group. 2 days passed in silence. Then, someone from procurement called to audit her deliveries. When the woman arrived, a hawk behind thick lashes, Amara laid everything out. Invoices, receipts, delivery logs, temperature records, supplier certificates. It wasn't just tidy. It was unassailable. As the auditor flipped pages, her phone buzzed. She glanced down, then up, one brow rising. You run a tighter operation than half our vendors, she said. I fed bus drivers before CEOs, Amara replied. They both deserve hot food on time. After the audit, Femi found her on the curb where she waited for her rider. Sometimes refusing one dirty shortcut adds a kilometer to the road, he said, but it gets you home. She smiled, unexpected warmth loosening the band around her heart. If the road is honest, I can walk it. Across the street, Chike watched from the company shuttle, unreadable. Perhaps he saw what he had thrown away, or perhaps he only saw what he could no longer use. The spark didn't look like a spark. It looked like a tired intern with acrylic nails, Zara, recording a quick tick-talk in the pantry while scarfing Amara's leftover suya spice chicken. Guys, nobody's talking about this caterer on 21st floor, she whispered to her phone. Affordable but tastes like heaven. The auntie behind it, humble, efficient, and her plantain is like therapy. She tagged #Amara's Kitchen Legos #support women in business, #not sponsored, and hit upload. By closing time, the video hit 20,000 views. By midnight, 200,000. Comments poured in. Office workers from Marina, Yaba, Ike just swapping stories of that small woman with the coolers, teachers asking for bulk packs, factory supervisors requesting shift-friendly menus. Amara woke at 3 a.m. to her phone buzzing like a trapped bee. She didn't panic. She made a list. 1. Scale menu without losing soul. Limited daily specials. Rotating proteins. Prep charts. 2. Delivery grid. 3 riders for Ikija axes. 1 backup. Color code routes. 3. Order pipeline. WhatsApp business with catalog, auto replies, payment links. 4. Quality. No shortcuts. Salt measurements in grams. Oil filters every morning. Coolers sanitized thrice daily. 5. People. Hire with care. Women who needed a steady wage and respect. She posted a simple video at dawn. Hairnet on. Hands washing. Pot stirring. Steamer hissing. Caption. We cook with dignity. If you order, we come. Within an hour, 500 new followers and 73 orders. By week's end, Amara had doubled her staff. 3 cooks, 2 packers, 4 riders. She negotiated with a rice supplier for bulk pricing, bought a second-hand generator, and set up a small point-of-sale system. Nothing fancy, but clear and consistent. She printed uniforms, navy polos with Amara's kitchen stitched in white. The orders weren't just from officers in the mall. A small hospital wanted patient-friendly portions. A school asked for Friday jollof specials. A women's fellowship invited her to supply lunch for a conference. And then, inevitably, Adiwale Foundation's admin messaged, "Hi Amara, Mrs. Adiwale loved the staff feedback. Can you handle 600 covers for our charity gala?" The figure sat on her screen like a mountain. She calculated rapidly, ingredient costs, labor, logistics, margin. It was doable with military planning. She could refuse and stay safe, or accept and cement her name among Lagos caterers in one night. She typed, "Yes," then added, "Menu attached. Deposit 60% to confirm." A reply came swiftly, "Approved." A payment alert followed, a number that once belonged to her dreams. Amara closed her eyes and saw her mother at the low stool, mending cloth with careful, tiny stitches. "The seam is where the cloth holds," Mama had said. "Make it strong." Amara opened a new spreadsheet. She began to sew. Planning a gala for the city's crowned egos is part culinary operation, part battlefield strategy. Amara built a war room in her small kitchen. Whiteboard with timelines, a Kanban of prep tasks, crates labeled by dish and hour. She met with her team the way generals meet with captains, clear, concise, with room for questions. "Hydration stations first," she said. "It's Lagos. People will talk, dance, and forget water until they faint. If they faint, it becomes our fault. So no fainting." Laughter loosened shoulders. She assigned a crisis kit box, extra fuel, first aid, duct tape, superglue, safety pins, spare ladles, a roll of black fabric for last-minute table scouts. Lagos taught her that success belonged to the prepared. 2 days before the gala, Femi stopped by her kitchen after work, suit jacket over his arm. He watched her orchestrate deliveries like air traffic. "You're building more than a business," he said. "You're building a standard." She kept writing on the whiteboard. Standards are what the city fails without. He hesitated. "You know this gala is political theater." "I know," she said softly. "I also know cameras don't only point where the rich desire." He studied her face, understanding more than she said. "Be careful." On gala day, the venue bloomed with lighting rigs and orchids. Waiters in white gloves lined up like piano keys. Amara supervised a plating line, gloved hands moving in rhythm, steam rising like prayer. She checked the hot boxes, then did what she always did when anxiety prowled. She worked, one motion after another, until the noise quieted. Tanya arrived with the ease of someone who believes the world anticipates her. Flashbulbs loved her. Journalists parted at her smile. She approached the kitchen for a pre-event kindness photo, well stooping to appreciate labor. "My dear," she said to Amara, placing a hand near but not on her shoulder. "You've come far. See? Lagos rewards ambition." "Lagos rewards receipts," Amara replied, eyes warm, tone unreadable. Tanya tilted her head. "Let's make tonight mutually beneficial." Feed people well and they talk less, Amara said. That benefits everyone. Guests poured in, bankers, commissioners, influencers, a senator whose laugh sounded like a generator. Speeches unfurled about youth empowerment, school renovations, leadership boot camps. Pledge cards lifted like white birds. The MC announced donation totals that felt elastic. In the VIP lounge, a careless conversation ricocheted off velvet couches. Shift procurement into foundation's mentorship line, a consultant said. Media will echo the press release word for word. Mrs. A's genius, another replied. She can turn a receipt into a halo. Amora's phone remained in her apron pocket, camera active, microphone open. She didn't relish it. She wasn't a vigilante. But truth had been spilling around her for months, and tonight it toppled cups to reach her feet. She stepped lightly to avoid getting wet. At 9:40 p.m., a coordinator panicked. 2 chafers sputtered, a fuse blown. Amara slipped into action, reset the portable, swapped units, replated, smiled at a jittery waiter, cracked a window to vent heat. The line steadied, crisis averted. A journalist near the kitchen door caught the efficiency. Who runs this? She asked. Amara's kitchen, a waiter said with pride that didn't need coaching. By 10:15 p.m., the night turned lush with music. Tanya took the stage, luminous under a rain of pin lights. We must raise leaders, she declared, voice velvet in force. We must build a Nigeria worthy of our children. Applause swelled. Cameras craned. From the back, Amara watched, not envious, not angry, just alert. She thought of Mama's prophecy, of shame melting like smoke. If the city bent a performance, it could kneel to proof. And she had proof, timelines, voices, invoices, threaded through a phone like a net woven quietly, patiently. The gala would end with fireworks and hashtags. But the real finale would come later, under cooler lights, in a room where microphones were less forgiving and truth had a seat with a name card. Amara adjusted her hairnet, signaled the dessert line, and smiled. They thought tonight would polish their legend. They didn't know it would polish hers. The Adiwale Foundation Gala was trending by dawn. Every blog in Lagos had a headline, Tanya Adiwale dazzles in blue. Cameras adored her, social media worshipped her, and Amara, though exhausted, watched from her small apartment as the video clips replayed endlessly. She wasn't jealous. She was alert, because beneath that glamorous night, the truth was fermenting like wine in heat. During cleanup, Amara's team had found a half-empty glass of champagne beside the dessert stand, Tanya's lipstick on its rim. Next to it lay an open folder of guest invoices with handwritten adjustments. Someone had scribbled, "Move 25 million Nigerian nairas to media fund. Confirm with Tanya." Amara didn't steal it, but she had recorded the moment on her phone for accountability. Now, she replayed that video and remembered the whispered deals she'd overheard, their arrogance, their laughter. 3 days later, she received a call. "Mrs. Adiwale wants to see you," the voice said. Amara froze. "Regarding what?" "The Foundation's appreciation lunch. She insists you cater it personally." At the lunch, Tanya greeted her with artificial warmth. "Amara, my dear, you become quite the sensation. The city's talking about you." Amara smiled politely. "I'm grateful for every client." Tanya's eyes glittered. "Gratitude is good, but remember, exposure is a fragile thing. People will love you today, drag you tomorrow. I hope you understand boundaries." "I do, Ma," Amara replied, steady. As Amara turned to leave, a junior reporter slipped into the hall. "Madam Amara, there are rumors your business is funded by politicians. Care to comment?" Amara blinked. "That's false." But by evening, a blog had posted, "Viral caterer Amara's kitchen linked to Foundation scandal." Comments poured in, some mocking, some pitying. Tanya had planted the seed, and the city watered it fast. Amara sat in silence as her staff panicked. "Should we respond?" they asked. "No," she said, calm but cold. "We'll respond with truth, not panic." She scrolled through her phone, photos, voice recordings, emails, videos, all timestamps matching the Foundation's shady moves. They had tried to drag her name into their mud. But in doing so, they'd handed her the shovel to bury their lies. It started small, a hidden audio file from the gala night, a selfie video from an event volunteer bragging online. We moved 10 million Nigerian Naira's media money last minute. But who cares? Mrs. A knows everyone. Then came a delivery driver's dashcam footage. By accident, it caught Tonya screaming into her phone about fixing commission. Amara compiled everything into folders, labeling each carefully: fraud evidence, witness statements, proof of laundering, media timeline. Femi noticed a change in her. "You're quieter," he said one afternoon over lunch. "I'm documenting," she replied. He frowned. "That's dangerous." "So is silence," she said. Weeks passed. The Adiwale prepared for another empowerment conference. Meanwhile, Amora's staff noticed unusual visits. Black SUVs parked near the kitchen, unknown callers asking about orders for Mrs. A. "They're watching you," Femi warned. "Then let them watch," she said. "I've been invisible before. This time they'll see everything." At the next foundation meeting, Amara volunteered to supply snacks. Hidden inside one of her branded boxes was a discreet microcamera, borrowed from a journalist she'd met at a networking event. From her phone outside the hall, she watched as Tonya, her husband, and two executives discussed adjusting figures before the audit. "We'll delete the old transfer logs," Mr. Adiwale said. "Nobody audits a foundation directly." Tonya replied, "And if that caterer keeps showing up in headlines, we'll deal with her reputation first." Amara ended the recording and sat still. They didn't just want her business destroyed. They wanted her name erased. That night, she backed up every file to 3 separate drives and gave one to Femi. "If anything happens to me, leak it," she said. He hesitated. "Amara, I mean it." Her voice was steady, but inside her chest, her heart thundered. Revenge wasn't her aim anymore. Truth was. When the storm came, it came loud. A popular investigative blogger posted a thread titled, "Exclusive. Inside the Adiwale Foundation's fake charity empire, leaked audios and receipts." The thread exploded across X, Twitter. Videos of Tonya's meetings, audio clips, screenshots of internal invoices, all neatly packaged. Amora's name was never mentioned, but every file bore her fingerprints of precision. By midday, national TV carried the headline: "Anti-Corruption Unit investigates Adiwale Foundation for 120 million Nigerian Naira's fraud." The city buzzed. At Adiwale Holdings, panic spread like a virus. Staff whispered, departments froze, legal teams scrambled. Tonya stormed into the office, demanding answers. "Who leaked this?" she screamed. Mr. Adiwale's phone wouldn't stop ringing. "They are freezing the foundation's accounts," he barked. "Fix this." Chaik, watching from a distance, realized too late that the empire he'd clung to was cracking. Meanwhile, in her modest kitchen, Amara received hundreds of orders. Everyone suddenly wanted to support a strong woman. Her inbox overflowed with partnership requests, but she didn't celebrate. She knew the second act was still coming, the courtroom. That evening, Tonya held a press conference. "My family has been targeted by lies and jealousy," she declared, tears in her eyes. "These attacks are orchestrated by enemies who can't stand successful women." Amara watched the performance on TV, a bitter smile touching her lips. "Play victim if you must," she whispered. "The truth doesn't need tears, it is proof." 2 hours later, EFCC officials arrived at Adiwale Holdings with warrants. The headlines changed again. Tonya and Adiwale detained for financial crimes. Lagos roared. The Adiwales were arrested at their mansion. Police vans, camera flashes, shouting reporters. It looked like a film scene. Tonya tried to cover her face with designer sunglasses. "I'm innocent," she shouted, voice shaking. But journalists had already turned their cameras toward her. "Mrs. Adiwale, did you divert charity funds? Did you threaten a small business owner?" Femi called Amara early that morning. "It's done," he said. "They are in custody. But prepare yourself. The case will need witnesses." "Then I'll testify," Amara said quietly. The following week, she appeared before the Economic and Financial Crime Commission. Her calm composure surprised everyone. She handed over hard drives, signed statements, and confirmed every recording's authenticity. The investigators exchanged glances. This wasn't a revenge story. It was documentation. When she left the EFCC office, journalists crowded her. "Miss Amara, is it true you exposed them?" She smiled faintly. "I just told the truth." Social media erupted. Amara's truth trended for 2 days straight. Videos of her interviews went viral, especially the clip where she said, "When people mock your small beginnings, remember they are scared of how high you might rise." The public turned her into a symbol: resilience, justice, grace under fire. Behind bars, Tonya fumed, calling her lawyers day and night. "I'll ruin that girl when I'm out," she vowed. But even the walls couldn't contain her shame. The same bloggers who once praised and now dissected her downfall. The empire she'd built on status had turned to dust, while the woman she'd mocked built hers on integrity. The federal high court was packed. Reporters, influencers, and curious citizens filled every bench. The case Adewale versus State had become Lagos' biggest public drama. Tonya walked in, chin raised, dressed in white, clutching a designer bag as if it could protect her dignity. Mr. Adewale followed, pale and hollow-eyed. Then the doors opened again, and Amara entered. She wore a crisp cream suit, her natural hair in a bun, her steps measured. A wave of whispers swept through the room. "That's the caterer who brought them down." Tonya turned. Their eyes met. For the first time, arrogance drained from Tonya's face. The judge entered, calling the room to order. The prosecution began. Audio clips, video footage, bank statements, and testimonies from staff who corroborated Amara's files. Every fact hit like a hammer. When Amara was called to the stand, she didn't gloat. She spoke clearly. "I didn't do this to destroy anyone. I did it because honesty shouldn't be rare." Her composure silenced even her critics. Femi, sitting in the gallery, watched with quiet pride. By afternoon, Tonya's lawyer attempted damage control, claiming the recordings were manipulated. But Amara's originals, time-stamped, unedited, ended that argument instantly. When the judge adjourned for verdict, the crowd erupted outside. Some shouted her name, others filmed, chanting, "Justice for Amara." But Amara walked past them all, her heart steady. She didn't crave noise anymore. Her peace was enough. As the court day ended, she stood on the courthouse steps, sunlight catching the edge of her face. The woman who once left a wedding in tears now left the courtroom in victory. And though the case wasn't over yet, the world already knew how it would end. The humiliated had become the heroine. The courtroom air felt thick enough to cut. The crowd held its breath as the judge adjusted his glasses, shuffling the final documents. Every journalist leaned forward. Every camera light blinked red. After reviewing the evidence, the judge began. "This court finds Tonya Adewale and Chukwudi Adewale guilty of financial misappropriation, embezzlement, and attempted defamation." The gallery exploded in murmurs. Tonya's face froze. First disbelief, then the sharp tremor of reality. The judge's voice thundered again. "The accused are sentenced to 7 years imprisonment, effective immediately. All properties tied to the fraudulent foundation shall be seized and reassigned to legitimate community programs." The gavel hit the desk like thunder. The sound echoed in Amara's bones. A final punctuation marked 2 years of humiliation, shame, and struggle. She didn't clap. She didn't smile. She simply bowed her head and whispered, "Mama, it's done." Across the room, Femi exhaled deeply, emotion softening his usually stoic face. Reporters swarmed as Tonya was led away, still crying. "This isn't justice. She set me up. I helped that girl." Amara turned slowly, her calm radiating power. "You helped me," she said softly, "by underestimating me." Outside, the Lagos sun blazed. The air smelled of dust and victory. That evening, Amara walked into her small kitchen, now upgraded, spotless, professional, and sat on her stool, the same one she'd once cried on. Her staff cheered when she entered. BC lifted a tray. "Madam, we win." Amara smiled. "No, my dear, truth won." She didn't know yet that her name was trending again, this time worldwide. The market girl who took down a millionaire. Weeks passed. Lagos moved fast, but Amara's story had stuck. Her face appeared in newspapers, magazines, and even a CNN feature titled "A Woman Who Cooked Her Way to Justice." Her catering business tripled in size. She opened a second branch in Victoria Island. Politicians invited her to events, entrepreneurs quoted her speeches, and schools used her as an example of grit. But one afternoon, as she finalized a delivery for a government summit, she got a message. "Visitor waiting downstairs, says it's urgent." When she descended, she froze. It was Tanya. The once flamboyant socialite now wore a plain gray wrapper and scarf. Her makeup-free face looked years older. Behind her stood an EFCC escort. "Amara," she began, voice trembling. "I asked for permission to see you, to apologize." For a moment, neither spoke. The kitchen's soft hum filled the silence. Tanya's eyes welled. "I destroyed myself trying to destroy you. I see that now. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to kneel before you the same way I once mocked you." And she did. She knelt. Gasps rippled through the kitchen staff. Beesie dropped a spoon. Amora's heart tightened. She had imagined this moment so many times, her enemies kneeling. Yet now that it was real, it didn't bring triumph. It brought peace. She reached down, gently lifting Tanya's hands. "You don't owe me this," she said softly. "You owe yourself grace. Get up." Tanya shook her head. "You're everything I pretended to be. Strong, respected, real." Amora's voice wavered, but her eyes stayed kind. Strength doesn't come from stepping on others. It comes from standing after they step on you. That night, after Tanya left, Amara stood by the window, looking at the skyline, Lagos, wild and alive. Her mother's words came back. "Those who mocked you will bow to the work of your hands." And they had. The success kept growing. Contract from multinationals, interviews on radio, sponsorships. But amid all the noise, an old ghost appeared at her office gate. Chaik. He wore a worn-out suit and carried an envelope. His once confident swagger had dimmed. "Amara," he said quietly, "I saw your interview. You become incredible." She studied him, her expression unreadable. "What do you want?" "Chaik." He swallowed. "Closure. Maybe forgiveness." She motioned toward a chair. "Sit. Tell me." "I lost my job," he said. "When the Adewales fell, everyone associated with them got laid off. I've been struggling. I keep thinking, if I hadn't left you." "Then you'd have slowed me down," she finished, smiling faintly. He lowered his eyes. "I was foolish." "You were honest," she corrected. "You wanted comfort. I wanted growth. We were never on the same road." He nodded, ashamed. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Amora looked at him, not with anger, but with understanding. "I forgave you the day you left," she said, "because your rejection built my resilience." She handed him a small envelope, a voucher. "Go start something small. You once dreamed big. Start again." He blinked in disbelief. "You'd help me." "Not to win me back," she said softly, "but to remind you failure isn't final." When he left, Amora leaned against her desk, exhaling. Her journey had come full circle. The ones who left, the ones who mocked, all returning to face her not as a victim, but as a symbol. And she realized something deeper. Forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was freedom. Months later, Amora received an invitation from the Lagos Women's Business Council. "We are proud to honor you with a Woman of the Year award for courage and empowerment." The hall glittered with lights, a crowd of dignitaries, CEOs, and young women eager to meet the woman whose name had become legend. Femi stood beside her in the audience, smiling quietly. As her name was called, applause thundered. She walked to the stage, the same way she'd once walked barefoot through rain after humiliation, but now every step echoed strength. She held the microphone and began. "They called me names. They laughed at my uniform. They said I'd never belong. But God never measures people by the size of their shame, only by the strength of their hands." The whole fell silent. Phones recorded. Tears glistened. To every woman watching, never apologize for starting small. Because small beginnings are God's favorite disguise for greatness. She raised the trophy. The whole rose to its feet, clapping, cheering. Mama and Cam would have been proud. In Amora's heart, she heard her mother's laughter, soft, pure, endless. After the event, Femi approached her. "You've changed how the city defines power," he said. Amara smiled. "No, I just reminded them that humility isn't weakness." He hesitated. "You ever think of resting? Maybe letting someone share the load?" She laughed softly. "Femi, I've carried shame, pain, and pots heavier than my body. Sharing joy now? That I can try." They exchanged a look, one filled with possibility, not pressure. A year later, the city gathered at the new Amora's Kitchen Foundation Center, a training hub for widows and young women to learn business, catering, and financial independence. Reporters called it the house that dignity built. As Amara gave her speech, she noticed movement near the back, cameras clicking, whispers spreading. Tanya had been released on parole, escorted quietly into the event. She wore a plain blue dress, no jewelry, no entourage. When the event ended, Tanya walked up the aisle toward Amara, trembling. The crowd fell silent. She stopped before her and slowly, deliberately, knelt again. Gasps echoed. Before the whole world, Tanya said, her voice breaking, "I asked for forgiveness. You were the woman I thought I could humiliate. But God made me kneel so I'd learn what real grace looks like." The cameras flashed. Reporters leaned in. Amara reached out her hand. "Stand, Tanya. Humiliation ends when we rise." Tanya hesitated, then took her hand. They stood together, the once rich woman and the once poor caterer, united by redemption. Applause thundered. Amara turned to the crowd, her eyes shining. No one stays small forever. Some of us just take longer to bloom. But when we do, the same people who laugh will clap. The whole erupted in cheers. Outside, the sunset painted the city gold. Femi watched her from the side, pride softening his features. Chaik, in the crowd, clapped quietly, humbled. And as Tanya wiped her tears and the audience chanted her name, Amara smiled, not in victory, but in peace. Her journey had begun with a stain on a wedding dress and ended with her name written in light. They thought they'd humiliate her, but she made them kneel,